just started it. All right. We'll call to order the Board of Directors meeting for the Keystone Heights Airport Authority. It is December the 7th, 2021, and the time is 6:03. Ask everyone to please stand for prayer and then Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks and give you praise for your abundant blessings to us. We remember this day in our history of the impact that it had on our nation. Families today that are still affected by that, the loss of their loved
always looking out and making sure your projects are in good order. And then they always want you to fill a project in for the 5th or 6th year. So you've got projects coming forward in the pipeline. So we'll be meeting tomorrow with Stephen Wilson and Armando Rivera from the FAA. We've also learned that Armando, your longtime program manager, is retiring at the end of December. So we will have a temporary program manager, one of the existing staff in the Orlando office. And I have not heard whether there'll be just shifting duties within the airport district's office or whether they'll be hiring people. So I think probably for you, the worst case scenario would be as if they hired me and I took Armando's place. I am familiar with the tradition of no that comes from Armando, and I would for sure take advantage of that. I've known Armando for all 34 years of my career. Armando's a great guy, a little cantankerous from time to time, but he serves his airports well. And Armando doesn't do anything unless it's been done by the book. Do it twice by the book, would be his preference. Were there any other questions on the project itself and how it might unfold?
So when you're talking about the taxi lane that comes right off of Taxiway Alpha that goes back to the southeast or whatever.
Yep.
Is that the one you said is gonna have to be, that it doesn't have enough depth in the limestone?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess when we get nearer, you remember we ran a pipeline
Yep.
to Potapals. I don't know how deep we went, but if you're going down 40 inches, I'll bet we didn't go.
To get easy base, to get all of the easy base, we have to go 40 inches based on the previous project. I think in this case, we're only gonna have to go like 28 inches.
No, there won't, in this location he's talking about, won't be easy.
Right, right, but I don't think we'll have to go 40 inches in front of the Potapout hangar.
I'll try to show you about where that pipeline runs at. Well,
you
no,
can see
the
the-
asphalt.
Yeah, it's
You can see
There's a
the,
pavement
cut out.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So we may have to do something.
you know what it
like that, or
is it just PVC?
it's potable water going over
But
to
it's just
the,
PVC, right?
it's just PVC.
So if we impact it, we'll just 90 it down and back up and.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
You have a fire main that runs through there as well.
that should be deeper, shouldn't it?
It should be deeper.
I think that's like
And we have that surveyed. You also have security camera, you got fiber optic cabling for the security camera. When our survey, it's already been surveyed, they had Clay Electric locate the primary lines and got some help from our drawings, and I think you helped us just make sure we located everything we could.
right.
So that's that. The other thing, at the last board meeting, the board authorized supplemental agreement number 25, which is a share-funded project in part by the city of Keystone Heights and in part by the board. I got that signed today. We've already started some of our project setup work. The next step in that would be to set up a kickoff meeting. We're getting close to Christmas, so we might get a meeting in next week, possibly. We'll have to see what Lynn and Maria's schedule is. If not, we'll get that going first week of January for sure.
Fantastic.
That's signed and rolling, and
That's for your due diligence project for the water treatment facility?
yep. Well, it's a little more than due diligence. We're actually gonna calculate water demand and sewer supply, and then coordinate with Clay County Utility Authority to see if their lines are suitable for extension onto the airport and in what manner and in what phases makes sense to serve the proposed west development area.
Right.
As well as all of the existing tenants.
Would you anticipate some kind of permanent infrastructure of a plant of sorts within the airport proper?
So the early conversations, like a couple years ago, that was being discussed.
Right.
The later conversations, the more recent conversations with Clay County Utility, that's not such a idea that they like.
Okay, so it'd be more like lift stations,
It's more, yeah, it'd be more like lift station, gravity to maybe one or two lift stations.
not a 3-acre package plan or
I
5-acre.
don't think so. I don't think they want to build a well field, and they don't want to lease the land to build a package plant.
Right.
They're gonna just route it back to their existing, their plant in Keystone Heights has ample capacity at this point, and it's expandable. I think the bigger question is, I think they can probably supply water. We're not sure how they're gonna estimate the amount of demand for their water between where they stop and the airport. There's a lot of other public infrastructure that they may want to extend into. And probably in any case, they can't provide enough flow or pressure to meet fire demand for your hangars. So you're probably still gonna have to maintain the above-ground water tank to have fire water capacity, and anybody that built a new large hangar, a hangar large enough to warrant a fire suppression system, like say for P3 aircraft or something like that, that would most definitely, I think, have to have a tank with it, an above-ground tank. The tank could be possibly fed from the potable source, but it might be more economical to feed a tank from a well than a potable source.
Speaking of that, Mr. Brang, on, that system was put in place in 2008, the water tank pump, because I know it wrapped up along with the hangars at that time. What's the life of that above-ground water tank, typically lifespan? Any idea?
I would think it'd be 25 to 30 years.
Okay.
Now, the life means it's gotta have good maintenance. I don't know if you guys, have you painted it?
Oh,
Has anybody inspected it? So we might wanna look into maybe a future budget year, having a tank inspector inspect it. It's a bolted connections, I think. So,
I believe it is.
if I
Okay.
remember right, it's bolted plates. It might need some paint either, or an interior coating in some places, but I can help you with that, but that's not something I have off the top of my head.
that's some funding that we might be able to get through DOT. Would they fund something?
I think they would
of
fund,
that nature?
a renovation or rehab of that.
We might want to, Maria, put that on our list when we sit down with Donna. Of course, you'll be there at that meeting too.
Yep.
And
The
Kyle,
annual DOT meeting will probably happen in February or March.
right.
I think the DOT may call in to the FAA meeting tomorrow, but it's weird how they don't, I don't wanna say they don't work together because they do, but the two programs, the funding for federal and state funding is assembled in completely different manners, so one entity usually just sits and listens quietly to the other entity. The DOT's interest tomorrow is, can they come up with the 10% share for all of your federally funded projects that you have?
I'll reach out to both Clay and Bradford County Fire or Emergency Management tomorrow. I'm sure that they've got some contacts that we can have somebody come and do a tank inspection.
Either or, one of both of the chiefs may have a certification that would allow them to do that.
It's, Chip Ware, he was actually the one who installed that. And I know I can still reach out to him just to get and if we get a heads up on what the cost would be, by the time we talk with DOT, then we know what we're asking for. So I'll do that this week.
Cody Johnson with Bradford County, I know has been out and set up what do they do now? Monthly hydrant checks and flows. And so that might be another resource for us to look at.
One
Cody
other
Johnson.
just item of note, last month you asked me to report back at the January meeting about the cost of additional hanger slab removal and replacement in hangars E and F. The unit pricing that we had initially is a little aged, so I'm meeting tomorrow with that contractor to look into the next few, in terms of the severity of the cracking, and just to confirm, one of them has some interior build-outs that would complicate things if we wanted to do it, so
You need to draw a graphic on there at all for us?
do not. I think everybody has that graphic.
I'm
keenly in mind.
sure, typically you've,
History shows that some
in your
of the
hand at this
longest
point.
meetings of this board include me drawing on the whiteboard.
I was trying to fit it into one of your topics.
I was terribly disappointed when I walked in and didn't see anything.
Yeah, right?
Come back in January.
Good to know.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Mr. Prang. Ms. Whitney is not with us tonight, so we'll move on. Under my area, we need to set a date for a workshop to do a couple things in that workshop. Our rate structure expires this month that was set in place 5 years ago. And the intent was to look at that. We have looked at those rates previously, so it's not going to be a lot of number massaging to bring that to the board. The other thing we need to look at, though, is also the CPI. And Rhea, I don't know if you've gotten those numbers yet, or,
I looked him up last week and I'm not real comfortable with, I'm showing anywhere from like 3% and I'm showing up to 5%, and that can't be accurate.
They hadn't,
It's a standardized rate. There's no manipulation in it. It's a federally mandated CPI.
put it out yet. I don't-
Okay, then
No,
that's
no,
the-
it's not out because that's where the increase is.
I thought it was
It's not out
supposed to
yet.
be out November 30th.
right, so that's the reason that we need to talk about that. Typically, in the past, it's published in November, because we've said COLAs and other things based on that, so,
We're looking at probably December 15th is what I was told, because we have wages that reflect that as well, so we're waiting on. the
okay.
salary.
So within that workshop, we are also going to do the final review of the MOS. So if, I don't know what everybody's calendar looks like. I know December gets busy and it's difficult to get together.
Do we want to wait until after the 15th just to ensure that the CPI has been published?
I would if that's that's one of your intentions.
Yeah, I would be fine with that. We will also send out by email the rate structure that we presently have and what we're charging. Within that document too, you'll see other airports where we did comparison data, which will help us as well.
When you're talking about rate structure, are you talking about price per square foot? or-
Talking about, yes.
Lease
Like
rates.
for ground leases as well as T-hanger leases, that we have bulk hanger leases, all of those.
Okay.
Yep. And you've seen those numbers before. I don't remember exactly when we reviewed them. Probably, time gets away, it's probably been a year ago, but it's something that we do need to officially look at and take whatever action the board feels necessary on that. What's your calendars look like, gentlemen? And Lynn and Maria.
And gentlewomen.
And Chief Holly, excuse me.
The three of us just gave you a dirty look.
I was trying to catch it.
I figured I was
Up here.
excluded from that conversation.
You're invited.
Everybody, what's your calendars look like?
Jerry, are you trying to schedule something after December 15th and prior to the holidays?
No, I think that's going to be a crunch time.
Yeah, please, no.
Please no.
How about the week of the 27th,
I'm more open the week of the 27th, yeah.
after Christmas? Lynn, we're going to have, and Maria,
28th.
we're going to have a meeting on the 30th for our monthly airport chat prior to our city council meeting and the board meeting, so
Yep.
what does the 28th look at? Like, I know Clay County Commissioners meet Tuesday.
Yep.
Clay County Commissioners are only meeting on the 14th this month.
Okay, so they only have one meeting scheduled. Okay.
I'm available later in the afternoon on Tuesday, December 28th.
How's that look on everybody else's calendar?
How late, Chad?
What time of the day?
4-ish?
4-ish?
Okay, is that good with everybody?
I'll be out of town that whole week. You would? I said I'll be out of town that whole week.
We can get you to zoom in.
All I'm in the mountains, I got reception.
All right, so we'll shoot, we'll set for the workshop to be December 28th, 4 PM.
Would you anticipate that being a 1-hour meeting or less?
Going to be a lot of fighting in it, I think. It's probably going to be longer now.
I would think because of what we've already reviewed from the rate structure, and we'll send it out ahead of time, that if everybody would take a few minutes just to review that material, so that when we come together, we can pretty much just go straight to,
Because I think the only
Hey,
thing
and-
on MOS that we were really, the board was gonna discuss, other than if there were other changes that you saw, was just the fee.
correct.
fee schedule associated with it, yeah.
And we'll be approving that at the January meeting though, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
And that's still,
So we
still be
probably,
set for the 4th, I guess.
yes. The first Tuesday is the 4th. City council meeting on the 3rd? Okay. All right. All right, the second item I have is a RFQ, Professional General Engineering Consulting Services. Our contract with AECom is coming to a close, and we need to go out as we typically have done in the past. There's information that Ms. Hitt has already pulled together for doing that. Ms. Hitt, you want to talk about what that process looks like?
The contract with AECom expires the beginning of February, so we're gonna need to get that RFQ out in the paper. Definitely, I mean, I think we gave 30 days before,
That's
at
customary.
least, yeah.
Minimum of 30 days.
So if I can get it in the paper, get it confirmed and in the paper by the end of December or beginning of January. And then at that point, we can discuss in the January meeting, or tonight, what dates we want to do for engineers to, present as well. Now, 4 years ago was when your second contract had expired, and then we received no bids at all. And I think primarily, were there 5? Or 5 years ago, yeah.
5 years ago.
I think because they kept calling us saying, are you guys happy with Bill and with AECom? And we said, yeah, we are. So I think we just immediately signed a new contract with you. But this year, Bill and I were talking about it yesterday. He feels that because there's a few new engineering companies that are out there, it's a possibility that we'll have some bids that we'll need to consider.
That was a 5-year term? Okay,
The FAA requires it to be a 5-year max,
okay,
so. And when we get to February, we aren't gonna stop working.
sure.
You just can't initiate any new task orders under our contract until you have a new contract in place with somebody.
Right. Do
We're
you,
not gonna stop working on any existing work. We're obligated to finish all of that
sure.
under the terms of the current contract.
Do you anticipate changing in any of the disciplines that we're requesting in our RFQ package? Or are you gonna kind of follow the same protocol that was done 5 years ago?
We were planning on following the same protocol. I was having Bill look at what we had looked at before, just in case of any standards had changed along the way, but I don't.
The FAA has a guide document for this, and it's not been changed recently,
Okay,
so.
There's some references to those FAA documents, and then the other sheet that's attached, it's a supplement to it, is a listing of the proposed projects that we're looking at in the next 5 years.
all right, like a capital
That gives,
plan.
Yeah, so that would be
is-
the only piece that would need to be updated.
Okay,
yeah, so we've got to update that. There's some other minor revisions in the documents that we've got to do, so I think it also states in there that there's a committee that gets assigned by the board to then review those and then bring back a recommendation to the board on who we want to interview, and then we'll vote for a contract. So that's where we are with that. Wanted to,
Presentations and interviews are not mandatory, so
correct,
it's an option.
correct.
The way it was written last time, you reserved the right based on how many were submitted and how the quality of each one. You reserved to defer the decision to request presentations or interviews until after the review committee's done.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, do you intend on appointing your board or your committee in January?
We can't go any later than that.
Right. And how many are required to be on your committee?
I think the document says 2.
I would suggest 3.
3, yeah.
2 is always a bad number.
Yeah, odd number.
Okay.
And I would suggest that if you all are up for it, for us to go ahead and designate those individuals, so we have the committee set for tonight.
I'm willing to participate in that.
The other option available to us as well is that I believe the board could just call a workshop to review it if all of the board want to be involved. So that's another option. In fact,
Either way, you have to notice it, so.
right, exactly. So what's the board's preference?
I'm good with you designating 3 people or whatever, or, or the workshop. But it might be simpler with discussions with 3 as opposed to 6 or 7.
I agree with Scott.
I think 3 would be a more condensed meeting.
All right. Mr. Richard, did you say you did want to serve on that?
I'm willing to,
Okay.
if that's the board's wishes.
Okay. Any other volunteers?
I think Ms. Hitt should participate, at least,
Definitely.
if not from a,
You should absolutely participate.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Dalgenay, you'll serve, okay?
I think the chair should participate.
All right, I'll serve. All right, so that gives us our 3. So if you'll make a record of that, Ms. Hitt. Okay, this isn't on your agenda, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. We have a service anniversary coming up. Mrs. Hitt is going to be celebrating a service anniversary here next week already. She was hired December the 12th, or is that the 15th? 15th of 2000.
Oh, my.
2000, no, not 2000, 2010.
10, I'm sorry, 2010.
Wow, you've already
It's like,
been,
wow, I have been here a long time.
So, and I had it written down on my agenda here, 2010, so we appreciate Maria and all that she contributes and does for our board, and just think she was hired by Dean Weaver and Noel Thomas, I think, right?
And Scott Roberts.
And Scott Roberts, and basically said that she'd occasionally have to answer a phone that never rings, and
Might get really bored. And I think I only worked 3 days a week, too.
yeah, so,
Yeah, same as today. Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm maintenance hours now.
ooh, okay, we better move on.
yeah,
But we are so appreciative. Thank you, Maria, for all you do, and
absolutely.
congratulations on your tenure here, and we hope that continues for a long, long time to come.
Pleasure.
All right, moving on to natural resources, Mr. Richard.
Yes, sir. It was brought to my attention that there were a handful of trees that were documented in the FDOT report. I can't remember exactly which section they are on that map, but
You're on the RPZ for runway 11.
yes, sir, that's correct. And so there's an opportunity to do a selective timber harvest in there as opposed to try and tackle a handful of trees. In my opinion, if there are 2 or 3 trees today, there will continue to be 2 or 3 trees. It's a even age class timber. So I don't have a date set in mind. However, I wanted to get buy-in from the board as to whether or not to pursue that. I think I roughed it out at 23 acres was that total block. I think 23 acres is insufficient to actually do a timber harvest, so I'll probably look at additional acreage. Usually it's around the 70 to 80 acres is what they're most interested in. We will need, if the board wants to pursue a timber harvest, we will need to develop the same thing we did before as far as a bid package and get, as many bidders as possible, evaluate timber. I've seen some pretty decent prices on timber recently, better than what we've received in the past. I don't know if we'll be so fortunate, but I would like to go ahead and do a selective harvest in there. The area that, I'm sorry, sir?
Which area?
So the RPZ at runway 11. So down
Going
south.
Yeah, no, up,
1129, runway 11.
right back in here.
Yes, that area.
So what happened is back in,
On this side, the 11,
Oh, it's here?
no, it's down on 11, the approach to 11. Yeah, right in there. It's on the firm's
Yes, within the Firm Rally area, that's correct.
And back in September, when we did
Talking this.
the
That block, yeah.
DOT inspection, they use an inclinometer, I guess, and they look at the approach slope. And so I got with Mr. Richard because we've got one tree that's sticking up, but they should all have similar growth rates. And if we have to get that one now, there's two more that look questionable. Before you know it, we're gonna have 8 or 10. And I just suggested if he would go look at it
Sure.
and just go ahead and look at doing a tree removal. And we did meet with Bryn Walters from the firm over there because they'll be somewhat impacted. He told me something interesting, and I don't know if you can, I don't know where they get this information, but does an average pine tree suck up about 450 gallons of water a year? Does that sound like a good number?
That seems a little high,
Okay,
but
Depends on
Well, there
if
was-
it's a long or a short pine.
okay. I was pretty amazed by that, but so we wanted to include him so we didn't cause drainage issues over there, but I'm sure you'll be aware of all that.
yeah, I don't know
So
what
that we can help or we can't help. I mean,
I'm sure we can do our best to mitigate it, and it really comes down to when you know, if you cut during the wet season, during the summer season, you're gonna have a higher impact. But ultimately, there's gonna be some kind of an impact, and what drainage infrastructure needs we can. If we need to make some modifications, we can. But that really comes down to looking at it from a basin type approach to ensure that the pipes are sized correctly and everything else. So that's really beyond my purview, or what I should be doing as far as the timber harvest goes. But yeah, so my suggestion is the area within the site distance or the approach, we just clear cut it and move on. And then the balance of it would be a selective harvest.
Okay,
So,
just what time frame you're looking at?
gosh, it depends on how many bid documents we have going on. I mean, I'm sure that Miss Head only has so much capacity for bid documents. I know we've got a couple built from before. It shouldn't be that complicated. So presumably February, March timeframe to go out to bid. And I'll just identify some polygons. I need to come up with some more acreage too for thinning. So I need to do some field evaluations to make sure that we've got the biggest bang for our buck and we're bringing a timber crew out here for the right reasons. So,
See a lot of timber companies and trucks on the road. I did notice there's a sign off 100 going into Stark, and I think it's for this. Are they cutting this block just outside, the next county road up from the airport here?
okay,
There's a logging. It says logging trucks entering highway or whatever.
I haven't seen that.
I was curious if they're cutting that timber that's to the northeast of that county road. I
Sure.
don't think we show it.
That should be beyond our map.
Yeah, we don't really show it up there on that map, but
I think it's Rayonier property back there, isn't it?
I don't know if that's part of the Sportsman's
Oh, maybe.
Club
part of it.
lease, what used to be Two Buck Club, but anyway, so, yeah.
Okay. And then we weren't able to show the Air Ops video in October because of some technical difficulties. And then unfortunately, I had a professional obligation in November. So I wanted to just show a video. Hopefully Morgan has it available. And it's just kind of a quick video capturing some of the fun parts of the adventure that we had out here. Hopefully it displays.
The next item, it's still loading.
Okay, so we'll get to that. And then the other regarding bid documentation and kind of thinking forward is we had discussed, and I think we had budgeted for some improvements to what I have casually termed as the Wayne Wynn retreat. And so in order for that to move forward, we probably need to do a solicitation of bid and get some contractors involved or at least interested in providing a bid estimate. So that really comes down to quantities and looking at, exactly what we want. I think it's been discussed in the past, but putting pen to paper, and if I need to, draft it or get it started, whomever wants to participate, I just want to get it started at least. We've been discussing it for a long time.
Yeah, I think Scott and I started talking about it last week as well, just in terms of really what all needs to be done in detail so that we can reach out. I reached out to Michael Davis, who we've used quite a bit here, and he said, don't be surprised if you, right now, in the area, you don't get a whole lot of feedback, because as we all know,
Yeah.
everybody's building new houses.
Sure.
And a lot of those contractors are hot on just staying on new builds.
Yeah.
So finding somebody to just come in and do, you know,
piece.
the roof and then this, and Scott even mentioned maybe even the concrete could be something that we form ourselves and we just have somebody come in and we do it.
We could actually.
There might be some things that,
Ourselves, but
yeah, that we may end up having to do ourselves, but if at some point, if you all, I don't know how you want to do it in terms of what your vision is on what needs to be improved. I mean, there's been obvious ones of concrete, roof. We need to enclose the one part of the
That
roof.
gable, yeah.
Right.
Weatherproof that gable.
People talked about getting the porch itself screened in. I don't know if that's something.
Yeah, we could do an ad alternate for some of those just to make sure that, you know, we have the flexibility depending on the bids that come back. So I think it's just a punch list. We can develop a punch list and get it out there.
So if you all,
we can do that. One of the other problems we're incurring is even when you get somebody to commit, what did it take me to get Ray's Electric out here? 45 to 60 days just to get an electrical run.
Right.
And now we're waiting on Keystone Plumbing for going on 3 months to get the septic tanks. So
Yeah.
the labor shortage is really impacting everything, but we definitely haven't forgotten it. And, yeah, it's gonna be a matter of getting the manpower, even if we can get the commitment. And additionally, I ran into this on a personal basis. I was, looking at one of these carports for my motorhome, and the lady over there at, I think it's called Handy Houses of Stark, there's a 31% surcharge on steel right now.
Holy cow.
So, so that's substantial, and that roof, you know, when we budgeted, so, it may be that we do the concrete and the roof and then we're out of money. I don't know how it's gonna play out.
Sure. Well, if we just do line items, then we can get a price as far as these different components and make a decision. And perhaps a portion of it is done this year and a portion of it's done later, who knows? But
We've gotta get that roof.
I was about to say, from a preservation standpoint,
We gotta get it
that's,
protected,
Yes.
at least that part, so.
well, if you would all send me items that you would like to have improved for that facility, and then I can kind of pull it together, and then I mean, it's not gonna hurt, see if I can get some people to come out and just at least give us bids. At least that gives us something, a starting point.
Well, I think if I heard Mr. Richard right, I think we need a scope of work with a list of items to be done that we can send to those contractors.
That's what I'm saying. If you
Okay.
can all send me everybody's gonna have different opinions
Develop
about
a
what
punch
needs to be
list.
done,
Was
so.
agreed on was the metal roof and the replacement of some of the plywood that's rotting, the concrete, and the third item was the gable and the painting.
and then
And that's basically what we did a budgetary scope for to come up with that 15,000.
and then a replacement of the 4x4s to 6x6s.
Right, that was part of the roof thing. So really, I mean, you can add things on, but we only budgeted for those 3 items, so.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
So we'll develop a punch list, share it with Ms. Hitt, refine it, and hopefully get some bids in the near future. So that, my final item was just to share that video. Morgan, is it gonna load for you? Well, we can get back to
Still
that.
wrangling with that. Let me ask one thing with that, with the retreat, what time frame are we looking at? When's the deadline we want to get that done, so we get the bids out?
Spring hunt. April, March. Oh,
Mid-March usually. isn't it?
Usually it's mid to late March, yes, sir. I don't know if that's possible, I mean, but if
we can
it,
try.
we can at least try, right? Just roof preservation, going into the rainy season, you know, you're just setting it up for one more cycle of being exposed to 30 inches of rainfall.
You think it's possible to have bids back for the January meeting?
Depends on how much hustle we have.
What do you think?
You know,
Is it? I mean, that's, January meeting's early.
With the
can-
holidays coming up, I can't imagine.
Yeah,
well, here's another thing that's going on too. Hate to keep being a wet blanket, but permitting issues. So I don't know if the concrete would require a permit.
No, because it'd be
It's not
under the
structural?
well, it'd be under the existing roof, you're not.
Right, but the roof does require a permit.
And that's Clay
building-
County.
And
building
so
permit.
what Sam from Keystone Plumbing's telling us too is with the holidays and the county's backed up on permitting, we could, even if we get the bids.
Sure, we don't have the
restricted
permit.
By the permits.
Sure.
But we can do everything we can to try to expedite it and move it forward.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right,
That's all I have, Chair.
all right. So, have we struck out on the video or? How we doing on the video, Morgan?
We'll just keep going and then,
There we go.
It starts.
Something.
I feel like there's a lot of buildup for a short video.
Most amazing 30-second
you
video
want to see the
ever.
kill.
Just keep going, I'll holler when it's ready.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Richard. Mr. Fryer.
Okay, as far as the airfield update, I don't remember if we mowed, did we mow the whole infield since the last meeting, or did that occur before the last board meeting?
Now, I think you mentioned you were going to mow it because
I don't think-
of grass.
Okay.
To try to knock it
So
down.
we did accomplish that, and we've been working with
Oh,
Futch's.
here's the video.
Okay, here we go.
I'm sorry.
Turn the volume on. Uh-oh, we're asking for a lot here. It'd probably be easier for me to cast it from my phone to that.
Probably.
We do have a fiber connection here, right? Like direct fiber?
We supposedly do.
Uh-oh.
Now we're really getting somewhere. We're gonna get bits and pieces. We have to listen to the audio and then we can watch the video. There is video.
Really
The
dark.
score is
isn't it?
fantastic.
All of a sudden, the bear's gonna.
That was before sunrise.
Yeah, this is dark time. It's all night
Was
off.
this done by Chad Richard
No, sir,
Productions?
no, sir.
Oh,
Here we go.
look at
There's your
this.
bear.
Oh, my.
How can you drag it back or? Was that just done with your phone or was that?
No, sir, a friend of mine took a bunch of video. He's been,
It's pretty good quality.
no, he does do good work. This one, the lady's dog she brought out.
You had, what, 2 campers out?
Yeah, there were 2 campers.
How many did they harvest, Chad?
3 as I recall. So sorry for all that, but
No, that's,
Good.
Very cool.
Very nice.
That's the most you've gotten, isn't it?
no, one time we killed 8.
Oh, really?
2 years ago.
Wow.
Thank you very much. That was very nice. All right, Mr. Fryer.
okay, so anyway, we negotiated with Futch's, who were buying some of this equipment with our DOT grant. And I asked Ms. Hitt if she would if we could go ahead and lease a second large tractor and bush hog to tag team it. And I think Luke and myself, Luke Ford, our airfield manager, he was on one tractor and I was on the other, and we actually knocked it out in about 3.5 days. We were able to mow that whole field out there where it was taking, I think, almost 2 weeks, hit and miss with one tractor. And then a really nice surprise was the manager over there that I've been dealing with all this. He felt bad that he's not able to get our new bush hog in here in time, so we were gonna get charged around $900, I think, to rent that. And he told me, he says, we're not gonna charge you anything.
Excellent.
So they're turning out to be a good working partner. So along those lines, I told y'all last month, we got the new Skag zero turn. We have got the 6-foot bush hog for the small tractor. I got a text today that the new Kubota 4-wheel drive with loader is gone from a status of manufacturer to pending truckload, which means hopefully it'll be loading out and we'll be getting delivery on it probably in the next week or two. The side-by-side is still in production. They're behind. I drove to Gainesville, was that yesterday? And picked up our new Texas dump trailer. We have a hydraulic dump trailer now we can use. It's
Did you take the bucket truck to get it?
no, I just took my Ford. The trailer actually, I mean, it's really very well built. But it only weighs, I think it's 3,400 pounds empty. It's got a GVRW of around 10, so we can get almost 7,000 pounds of millings or limestone or whatever we may need to move around here. It also, I was pleasantly surprised to find out it's got ramps built into it, so you can drive a vehicle up on it if you need to transport. So anyway, we got that yesterday. And let's see.
Have we been able to reconfigure the maintenance facility to kind of have everything under roof yet, or is there gonna be some overlap?
We've shuffled some stuff. We've got to get those jet engines. We were just talking about that again, revisiting, trying to get with GSA, or is that GSA or is it Florida State Surplus?
GSA.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just trying to work with the guy to schedule for him to come pick them up.
We're just not having luck giving stuff away. It's really weird. You'd think, okay, free stuff, it's been approved by the state or the federal. And, but anyway, we have cleaned up somewhat in there and we're gonna do some reorganization. For the time being, we moved the dump trailer in there. Luke and I went down and moved the Cessna 140 and we're able to get it in there in an angle. So it's under lock and key right now.
Are those gonna be turned into the surplus warehouse in Stark, or?
That warehouse is no longer part of
closed.
GSA. They closed
It's
last year sometime.
Oh,
So that's why it's even harder to get this stuff returned, because now there's not really an official location.
The gentleman is trying to get it's a T-33 trainer jet from the 50s or whenever those things were in there. So we got 2 jet engines in the maintenance shop. And then we got the fuselage in a Connex down there in MHD's lease. And the wings out in the field there. And then, of course, we got that Learjet out there, and the same guy's supposed to pick it all up. But what we're thinking we may have to do is go ahead and move the jet engines outside and just get some really good tarps
yep,
and tarp them up, because we can't count on him.
right.
And we want to protect our assets as we get these new items in. We're going to get everything in that building we can, so we're doing well with that.
The old green tug, Luke said he was working on that.
Yeah, I think we determined there was a fault in the ignition switch, so he's got the ignition switch, but every time I ask him to go down there and do it, Maria pulls him off on something else. It's not my fault. I just want to be clear on it.
I talked to him today, and he did put the new switch on.
Okay.
And it still didn't fix
Okay.
it, so he was gonna do some more
We'll do
troubleshooting
some more
on it.
troubleshooting, but
Yeah.
the whole plan is to get rid of that green tug. It does have a transmission that needs replaced, but it's an old C4, so it's relatively cheap. We may be, well, obviously when the new Kubota comes in, I'm gonna get the old blue Ford on the market, try to get it sold and the bush hog for it. So not only will we be getting the new equipment, but we'll be getting some funds from selling our used equipment. And then we want to try to do a much better job. Luke's done an excellent job going through and working on a PM or preventative maintenance program to make sure all this equipment's getting greased and the oil changes are happening, in due process and everything. So that's about that on the equipment. And so under the next thing here, you see a land use agreement. We've met with, is it Billy Price? Yeah, Billy Price with Argentech Solutions. So what they do is they build UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. And I believe they build them on the civilian side. Some of the uses they have for them or when they're fighting the fires out on the West Coast, they can fly the drones in as a lead for the big dump planes. They might use it for NASCAR events or that sort of thing. And then they also are working with, trying to get military contracts. So he's come in and done a really good job. He's met with us twice and expressed interest. And we also talked to Grant Hooks, one of our flying instructors here. He knows this gentleman. And Mr. Price also is I don't know if he's retired, but he did service with the military. And so we have done an evaluation, talked to him about some land lease, and for the time being, it would be down by the electrical vault. He just needs a place to stage like a cargo trailer with some of his equipment in there. But he's gone back to his people to talk some more. But when we get down to the fundamental operation of these, the UAVs are gonna make our pilots nervous. But he has done a lot to share the technology. These things are not toys. They've got ADS-B built into them. So we'll be able to see them on our ForeFlight apps or AOPA. I can't remember what they call theirs, Q-Flight or something like that. They've got navigation lights for use at night. They've got strobes on them. I mean, these things are serious vehicles. So without getting into much depth, we're looking at the infield when he would fly it. That would be 400 feet and below. And this is strictly for testing. And then we're going to see how that goes, how he works with the traffic here. And then we may graduate up to an altitude of, I think he said 1,000 feet AGL.
Ideal.
But we would go out to the north side of runway. Well, yeah, it is kind of the north side of runway 1129, back into that same forestry area. My feeling as a pilot is I feel like he'd be very safe. He volunteered that they would be carrying communication equipment so that they can hear aircraft entering our traffic area. And, he told me that they would yield right away to all these aircraft. But first and foremost, I told him I thought that before he actually, entered into a formal agreement and proceeded with this activity, that I would like to have an opportunity for the tenants to have a meeting to, answer their questions about how this will work with the traffic as aircraft come and go. So I don't know how you felt about him. He seems to really have his stuff together. I
A
mean,
lot more comfortable than what we initially, thought. I mean, it's, in my mind, it's kind of like what we're dealing with PPG. UAVs, I mean, it's not going away.
coming.
Yeah, and again, they have just as much airspace rights as the PPG guys do, as our aerobatics, as anybody else does. So I think it's worth our while to, he certainly said that he would come in and talk to us when he gathers more information.
He can talk to the board and he'll talk to tenants. So he's very receptive.
Very, he's got a lot of factors, safety factors in place. If we said, hey, today's just not gonna be a good day for you to fly, that's not an issue for him at all.
Right.
He initially came to us because they were looking for a winter place. They're not year round, but their main location
Oregon.
is out in, is it Utah?
No, I think it was Oregon.
Oregon?
Yeah.
So they were looking for some place to fly during the winter months.
And that is the other good thing. It would be just seasonal. It might be here only 2 months a year or 3 months a year.
What's the upshot to the airport?
Well, how large of an aircraft is he operating and
Well, he's got a small one, which is only, did he say?
No, it's pretty small. I think it was a 40-inch wingspan and it was under 30 pounds.
It was like 30 pounds. And then the larger one, which that's what he's trying to find out if the company wants to be able to send it out here, that one was like 70 pounds.
70 pounds and around $150,000. It's not a toy. Very sophisticated. He has spotters. He'll have spotters with him. He seemed like he was really on his game. So the upshot to the airport could be this. I don't know that we really benefit that huge amount from our aerobatic airspace, but we do get some fuel sales out of it, especially when you have competitions. But his point was, a lot of airports are afraid of this. They don't know quite what to make of it, and I think the thought is it's gonna be like a radio-controlled airplane just flying across the runway and everything, and he doesn't operate like that. He's gonna be following standard traffic patterns if he crosses the traffic patterns. But he's gonna be more synchronized with the traffic. And so the thought is, where they've got now, they've got 3 airspaces subdivided up in that area of the country. And so suddenly Amazon, because they are experimenting with, the delivery systems or the thought of delivery systems of the drones, they have a facility there that I can't remember how much, didn't he say it was like $800 or $1,000 they built this facility for testing? There's a couple of other companies there, so there's not that many of these around the country, and if they get if they get a footprint here and it works well for them, we could conceivably see either a manufacturing testing facility here.
Sure.
But we want to go in baby steps. We told them this is, you got to come in and prove yourself on this small scale before we even talk about anything.
Well, that seems realistic, but I mean, obviously, if it goes well, then we're setting up a stage for a new anchor, right? A diversifying our portfolio beyond what we have right now. So I was just trying to understand, because if it's just a cargo container, the land lease is going to be nominal. They're not paying for fuel.
No, it wouldn't be. I think we were talking about $200 a month.
So nominal.
Something like that. I mean,
Yeah, the impact is,
it's minimal right
footprint?
now.
What's the footprint?
oh, not
For the
even,
ground
Big
lease?
trailer. I mean, it's for right
On
now.
Xbox,
for right
basically.
now, it's like a
know.
Conex.
Yeah.
Can we consider where that's going to actually go? Are you saying next to the water tower?
No. The electrical vault,
Oh, right.
the intersection, that block building.
Okay.
And again, this was his point, is he wants the trailer where he's got line of sight. So the good thing is, if that cargo trailer is right by the vault, and he does have electrical access for charging batteries and whatnot, he can drop the tailgate and have an open view right in the center of the field and the traffic pattern. And then if he wants to go off here into this north zone, right here, he would have the same visibility from that location. So initially, it wouldn't be that great of an impact, but if they like it here, it's conceivable they may want to build a building. We just don't know where it could go. But I agree with Maria, we can't really stop. These things are coming, whether people like it or not. The other thing to consider on Chief Denning's side is the fact that he made us aware that Camp Blanding has jamming frequencies, I think, on some of these drones when they have operations.
It's, okay, so it's set up similarly like a governor's chip. You remember back in the day, Chevy, if you went over 90 miles an hour, a governor's chip popped in and bumped you back down. So that is actually from the manufacturer in itself. If it is a privately owned for recreational use, they put these governor chips. And then as you move on to who has them and what company is using them, then it tends to get a little more broad. So the way that the restricted airspace is set up, only certain levels of groups can fly within that restricted airspace. And it's not necessarily a jamming technique, but it is just, it's that governor's chip that's in from the manufacturer. So we actually have to go through a full DoD process to allow someone to fly within the restricted airspace. Now, I'm sure that the people that are setting this up that want to do this will know that they have lost link procedures, and so if you lose the transmitter between the controller and the aircraft, where is it going to go? It would be terrible if it went into the restricted airspace. Not necessarily that I don't think anybody would shoot it down. I don't think anybody would. But I,
Are you from Clay County?
so,
Landing.
but I don't know if it would ruin their $150,000 piece of equipment because it would.
Know a lot because he's had to deal with the military up there, and the way, and you correct me if I'm wrong, he told us, I mean, he's looking at the areas because he knows where the delineation is for the.
Right.
But he says sometimes there's bleed over because there are frequencies involved. And he says usually what happens if you go towards a military installation with this thing, all it'll do is it kind of sends a signal, if I'm right, and it homes.
Sends it back to him.
Comes back to where he's at or moves it away from that airspace. It doesn't cause it to crash.
Right. I would imagine that sounds correct just in the way the processes work. A lot, like if you take your drone out to landing, which we have had instances where someone gets one for Christmas and they think it's a cool idea to take it out. And
Right.
it won't even come off the ground.
Right. That's what he explained to us.
Yep.
But so I would strongly encourage Maria, if you get maybe with the DOT and FAA and just pull the regulatory guidance for your airport and how the current requirements, because yes, UAS is a thing, it is coming full on. They came down to the FAA and said, we don't care, you're doing it. And I know that it goes from strict, like it has to be 300 feet or below, and it cannot be within this many miles of whatever. Those guidelines are broadening, but I would highly suggest for you to check with the FAA prior to having them come in, especially working coincide with manned aviation. But other than that,
Well, that was a point I was going to ask, because I know there are guidelines the FAA has established around airports and drones flying in the vicinity, a certain distance and altitude. So I know there's some documentation and some regulation out there.
What is the
So-
purpose of his flight activity?
So they do testing. So they're a development company that builds these. And they test them and then they do training. And then, of course, now it's like interviewing an employee. When you do that, you're getting a salesperson. They're going to tell you all their best traits and everything.
Yeah.
But what he told us is they pretty well handpick the pilots that they train, and most of them are veterans. These aren't as sophisticated as what they used, for instance, in Desert Storm, where the Air Force was flying them from MacDill Air Force Base in a room and landing in Dubai or Kuwait or whatever. They're not to that degree. They're not satellite linked in that fashion. They're strictly line of sight, and it's mainly testing he just wants to do. And quite frankly, he told us, I mean, I believe he lives in Fleming Island, and for him, this just seemed like the most logical airport because we are lighter traffic. He knew that he would probably get shot down if he tried to go to Craig Airport or any of the Jacksonville Port Authority airports. So he approached us, and he had talked to Grant, and Grant, in my opinion, is a very good flight instructor, and he realizes there is a certain amount of risk, but he also knows that there's a level of skill. If these people demonstrate this, eventually at some point, we're all going to be dealing with UAVs. Like you said, I mean, they're coming. So
yes. So just looking in the CFR and Maria's CFR, if you want to glance over it at your leisure, 14 CFR Part 107. And this just gives a little background, and from what I'm reading, it appears that commercial UAS, they require a licensed operator.
he is licensed.
So, yeah, so in order for them to fly commercially, they do have to be licensed. So that's a plus. But,
And I think there's two parts of it. There's student flying, which, as Scott said, that they handpick those students as well. And the other piece of it is because they're trying to get a contract with the Department of Interior.
Or Forest Service or something like that.
Yeah, so they're working on that contract, because right now it's just, it's per case that they're getting paid
Right.
for, and, you know, that's not really making them any money. So they're looking for contract work for that, which they feel like they're getting close to that. But the other piece of it too is that they're looking at manufacturing these UAVs and then selling them too. So it's kind of a two-part purpose. So,
I think he said their actual corporate office was like somewhere up in New England.
New Hampshire.
Okay, was it New Hampshire? Well, and I probably got it here. So, yeah, Concord.
So what are you asking from us, Scott? Like, are you just presenting?
Just sharing, because we haven't actually entered in any kind of contract. We'll know, and this is what I should have said, I get long-winded, but we'll know more next month. And then maybe this is something we bring to the board in February, you know. But this, and I think this is a good idea, not that we have neglected to go to the FAA. We haven't made it that step yet, but I think we'll inquire and see if there's anything special we've got to do other than maybe a NOTAM, or do we have to have the charts up, you know, updated to show UAV flights occurring here? But
I know the Jacksonville Airport Authority owns some UAVs themselves. And every now and then, they'll send out a notice to all the tenants at Cecil Airport and just saying, oh, we're gonna be flying a UAV. And what they're doing is really kind of surveying their own property or overflying the buildings and looking for, you know, maintenance concerns.
Okay.
Using the UAV for that. So the airport authority operates them themselves.
Okay.
Within their own airspace.
Would this require NOTAM every time they were doing training?
I'm thinking it'd be a good idea.
probably no different than when we're operating our aerobatic box.
I just think they would put a NOTAM out that there's UAV flights today or whatever.
During a particular time.
Okay,
And we can look for guidance from
Interesting.
the FAA.
Yeah.
all right, look forward to some more information then on that. All
And
right,
that's all I got.
thank you, Mr. Fryer. Chief Denny.
Yes. So, you can expect absolutely no noise coming out of Camp Landing for the rest of December. So January, as far as artillery, mortars, let's just talk about artillery and mortars for now. Those guys will be coming out in April. I talked to them today, and they will be hot and heavy in April. So we will talk more about that as we get closer. It's rather exciting. They got a new high charge 777 something, and we got to take like 36,000 feet, and it will be extremely loud. But we don't have to worry about that. As far as EOD, and I do want to point this out, occasionally it says not EOD scheduled. If anyone in the vicinity of like mid to northern Florida, if they find a dud or anything within, like, you know, you have the MOAs down in Palatka, and then up here as well. If they find anything, they come to the base and EOD will have to detonate it. So if you hear one single boom, that is, they found one, which I was just discovered, they found one a week and a half ago. So they had to bring everyone in the day before Thanksgiving and go ahead and take care of it. But
This is just unexploded ordnance
yes, sir, so if they,
recently, or?
if someone
there for years?
finds, I do not know how long it was out there. But
Okay,
if someone finds unexploded ordnance outside of our detonation area or outside of our, impact area, the EOD that is assigned to us, they have to actually transport it from where they found it, which they found it in the Palatka area, I believe.
okay.
They transport it and immediately have to detonate it. So I say that to say, I will tell you, yeah, nope, we don't have anything EOD scheduled. But
Then if they
shocking
find
turn of
something-
events, the day before Thanksgiving, everyone's loading in to detonate it.
Okay.
So,
So, and for our non-aviation board members, and the MOA is it's an area on the chart, it's a military operations area.
yeah.
And so down in the Ocala National Forest on the St. Johns River, they used to have a place there where they used to bring the fighter jets or whatever from the Navy. I think would go down there and drop.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far back it went. I don't think they had live ordnance, but they had dummy bombs on there and whatnot. So
Lake George.
Lake George, right?
Lake George, yeah.
That's a helicopter training facility.
Yeah.
Whole lot of training in that area.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So you'll hear a whole lot more from me come March.
All right. Well, good. All right, Ms. Hitt.
Let's see, well, we've covered quite a bit just on the airfield side with Scott. And I think I said this the last month, or I wasn't here last month, so the month before that. Just thank you, Scott, you're amazing. We couldn't have done this past event, the Jeep event in preparation, just everything with Luke coming on board and you just really helping out, so.
Well, thank you for thanking me.
Yeah, you've been great, so you'll be back in tomorrow morning at 7. I'm gonna let you have the day off, but let's get
How can I pay again?
So we got 2 huge events out of the way, and they were completely successful. So the Jeep event, Crawling for the Fallen, was the weekend of November 13, 14, somewhere around in there. They had record number, 736 Jeeps, 2,000 people, over 70 vendors. And I just got an update from Chrissy, who's the main, let's see here, she's the main organizer of this. And she said, so overall, Crawlin gets to donate over $100,000 and $2,500 from fundraising done for that weekend. They collected $35,000 particularly for that weekend, but now overall can donate the $100,000. And they help over 51,000 families of survivors of military frontline people who have passed. So they start fundraising again in June for the November event. So they plan on coming back again next year. If the firm will have them, and there's no reason to think that they won't. So it's a great event and it keeps growing. The Nitro event is crazy as the last several months have been, on and off, and 20,000 spectators expected, down to 15, down to 10, 7,500, now just 5,000, and we're all pulling our hair out. But I'm waiting on numbers. I should have that by Friday. We're going to be meeting with Kimberly Morgan with Clay County Tourism on Friday morning.
Yes.
And then there will be a complete hot wash meeting with everybody from Nitro 301, Airstream, Clay County Tourism, Bradford Clay County Emergency Management, just to figure out where, if anything, there were some items that went to the side that could have been a lot better. We've already determined marketing was something that failed miserably, hence I think the number of between 3,200 and 4,000 maybe capped it for this weekend. But overall, it was a very successful event. If you're not familiar with it, it's Travis Pastrana's brainchild. He really wanted to pull together a family event, but a series of races. And so we were the last one on the 7-location series, starting in California. And the overall feedback, Lynn and I were out there with Lorena and Kat Kamek on Saturday doing live Facebook feeds, just pushing it, and the feedback we were getting was amazing. It was no incidences whatsoever. Everyone was safe. No one got hurt. Bradford County was very happy with the whole layout of everything. And the feedback even from the racers was that it was the best out of the 7 series, because especially the European racers, because it was much like a European track, which is part pavement and part dirt. So, and Scott, they came in out of California driving 3 days, all these rigs back, and they still had to build the track. They came in the day before Thanksgiving?
They came in Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve, and I'm like, they're not gonna get this done. but they did it.
They did, somehow they did
amazing.
it. It's amazing,
Released all the dozers, road graders, rolling equipment, dump trucks they couldn't find, but Brent and I were able to put our heads together and find some dump trucks. Herb Horn with Earthworks, thank goodness he bailed them out on the clay.
yeah. And we provided them 152,000
7,500 gallons of water.
gallons of water. And overall, we were able to, with the parking that Scott that prepared for them and some other facility fees with the water included, we ended up, getting in around $5,000. So isn't too shabby for really not a whole lot of, just our time, basically. So we can anticipate them hopefully coming back next year, I think. I don't want to talk too soon, but I think that, that they're definitely want to come back next year, which definitely means that it's going to be bigger numbers.
Well, there's also gonna be some economic gain for the firm because them showcasing that track, they got a lot of the public's interest. But in talking to Lorena and Brent on Monday morning, there were Swedish racing teams there. I think there was one guy, well, I don't want to speak out of turn, but anyway, some of those teams just want to come back and test. Forget the fact they want to come back for the event, but they want to come in mid-year, bring their cars from Europe or wherever they bring them from, and they want to do some testing. And then the spectators, now that found out the firm is there, are probably going to come spend their hard-earned dollars to enjoy it as a personal experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a win-win-win all the way around.
So is the track infrastructure, is it still there now?
They're going to keep it there. And that early on, the firm was just not sure that they wanted to do that because that's not their main focus. But just from the rally world feedback that they got, they're like, please don't take this down because this can now be a venue for us to come and practice and do what we need to do. So they're gonna keep it and maintain it and see how this next year runs. So what was? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna volunteer to videotape Chad taking the Tundra over the ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Sunday.
Take the Kubota first.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, actually, Morgan already said, do you think my Ultima, can you hear me there, Morgan? She said, do you think my Ultima will make it over the jump? And I said, well, it might make it. I don't know what it's going to be like after.
But the cool part, so on Friday, Chase Elliott flew in his citation.
Yep.
And so he was, super cool, friendly, all of that. And then on Saturday, a G5, a Gulfstream 5 landed,
which is a huge
Fort
business.
Lauderdale, and it made Chase Elliott's plane look like a sidecar. We're like, yeah. So those guys came in. They spent the afternoon. You drove them over.
Right, I drove them over there, and they didn't buy any fuel from us, but. So the Gulfstream is a transoceanic business jet. It can go from New York to Paris nonstop. So
the owners just
from Miami.
This was their first trip.
Yeah.
To Keystone, which was kind of funny.
But I did tell them.
For the rally or just?
They came in to see the race, and they wanted to pay us some money for ramp fees and all that. And I said, no, don't do that. But I said, Joni's here on Thursdays for hot dogs. So I said, fly the Gulfstream up, bring all your friends up on a Thursday for Miami for a hot dog.
Yeah. So, and then Sunday, I had heard through the grapevine that Travis wanted to jump out of an airplane. And if you know Travis Pastrana, he's willing to jump out of anything, especially sometimes without a parachute. But I confirmed in this case, we didn't want that stuff going on here. But so the whole part of it was that he wanted Chase Elliott flying the plane and that he was jumping from the plane.
Prior race that they did a couple races ago, Chase said something about him jumping
Some
out
kind of a
the plane.
bet or something.
Challenged him, yeah. So we scrambled and I connected with Art Schaefer over at Scott F. Palaka. He got a plane in here on Sunday. Chase went up and did a practice run because he had never flown a jump plane before, knowing that he had to shut the door after everybody jumped. So he went up, 3 jumpers got in there with Travis. We had film crew on here. They're doing the whole just Hollywood thing, which was a lot of fun. and they jumped in over near the racetrack, and so all was well. But overall, the whole weekend was just amazing, and got a lot of good FaceTime and good exposure for us, for the airport, certainly for the firm, and so it was successful. So we'll keep you all posted if they'll be coming back or not.
And if you, so probably a lot of you weren't in attendance, or if you were, I didn't see you, but if you want to go onto your YouTube and just put in Nitro Rallycross the firm, there's about 6 videos out there. One of them is the entire Peacock, it was on the Peacock network, which is a division of NBC. And I think it's a full 3.5 hours if you want to watch some of it, but it's really, really cool. The one thing that impressed me the most now, I had to ask at the end of the event, I went over to the NBC truck or whatever, but I said, who was the guy flying the drone? He would take off after those cars, and his flying skills were out of this world. He was right on those cars. I didn't know a drone could go that fast. And that's what impressed me, is I'm looking at the flying side. I said, that guy's talented. But they put on a heck of a show, and really for the ticket prices they had, that was an entertainment value, because I think for the standing room, it was $36.
Yep.
That's Saturday and Sunday.
And that includes your parking.
$50 if you're in the grandstands, and that was Saturday and Sunday. So, you know, for the price of things right now, that was a really good deal, I think, for the patrons or whatever, the people coming to see the event. But and MHD Rockland flew the P3 in the sunset over there. They did a kind of a circular
Right before their last race.
right before the final race of the thing. They Todd fired that up, or had his guys fire that up, and they flew the P3 over, which crowd went crazy over. So
it was certainly one for the books. So let's see, unrelated to anything else that's fun, I did send out an email, which I think some of you got today, which is just, we have a FAA-based aircraft inventory program, which we've got to update all of that every year with DOT. So I'd sent out an email to all of our tenants to send me their N numbers. Thank you. I got some info back from a couple of you. And we just provide what type of aircraft and that it's based here. So updating that and making sure that's done by the 15th of December. Let's see, we already talked about the Bradford County DEO. And let's see, and I was on a webinar yesterday. It was the DOT Statewide Aviation Economic Impact Study. Kind of an overview of the program. They will be meeting with us. I think it's Kimley Horn, who I think DOT farms it out to, but they'll be getting with us, making an appointment and getting with me probably in January or February. And just sitting down and talking about the economic impact that we have, who our tenants are, who our businesses are, employment. You said that they did a dry run, was it yesterday with Swanee? Today.
They did a test, well, they did the one for Swanee County Airport today, but Kimley Horn brought 9 people, which was sort of a training the teams that are gonna go out and do this at other airports.
Right. So.
Because the questions are kind of generic, but every airport's got sort of different scenarios, whether you're a board run or a municipal airport, that induces some different way that the money is tallied up.
Right. Well, they don't do this, but is it 3 years?
They do it every 2 years.
Is it 2 years? Okay.
But they don't always spend this much effort. This is a pretty intense effort. And this time they're doing a couple extra things in terms of they're gonna produce deliverables that would include a video for each airport and a set of PowerPoint slides to facilitate members of the board going into the community with that information, so you don't have to generate your own materials. It'll be pre-generated and you can use what you want or cut out what you don't think is relevant. And it'll be statewide numbers, regional numbers, and then numbers for your airport specifically.
So that'll be a great marketing piece.
Definitely.
That we'll be able to use. And on top of that, I did speak with Kate Strickland last week, and she's gonna get with me after the first of the year and come out here and really start to kind of put a narrative together on the video. You all had discussed a couple of months ago about paying $2,500 towards a marketing video for them to do that. So we're gonna sit down, I think, next month and.
Good deal.
Yeah, LRDC's turned out great. It got the final cut last week, and so hopefully it'll be published here before too much longer. But I think you'll be happy with the product.
Good. So, other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hitt. Thank you for all you've done, and again, with what Scott's done for the last, several months now, with helping out with the changeover with Mike leaving and Luke coming on, and I know.
Did your PTO request to Maria for?
I'm waiting for my 1 year.
But I think a lot of us who serve on the board probably had no realization of how much time our staff puts in to do what they do, and volunteers as well. So we just appreciate that, greatly appreciate it. Things don't just happen. It takes a lot of dedication. And we're blessed to have good staff and good board to do that. Ms. Rotowski.
Just a couple of things, just echoing off of the Nitro Rally over the weekend. Scott and Maria did a fantastic job on behalf of the airport. They worked their butts off, and that was really cool and very appreciated. I mean, that was noticed worldwide. So, with that being said, the economic impact was upwards of over $2 million to the area. With the businesses, I know that Herbie was one of the ones he pulled an all-nighter getting that ramp going, as well as several others. Off of Nitro, moving on to this coming weekend is the holiday extravaganza downtown Keystone Heights. We have a vendor show starting at 10 o'clock. We've got live music throughout the day. Stephen Quinn is going to be down at the beach performing at 4 with our Christmas parade at 6, and then the Santa Claus, Tim Allen's The Santa Claus will be playing at the beach right after the parade. So if you have nothing to do, or even if you do, bring your kids, family, friends, and all that other great stuff downtown. Clay Day is coming up. It's the opportunity for Clay County to go to Tallahassee. It'll be the 16th and 17th of February. So I think that we'll talk about who's going to be involved in that. I've sent Maria the link and start making our reservations and plans for that.
And I see, is it December 16th is a planning day?
Yes, December 16th is a planning day. Then the only other thing that I want to bring is the possibility of scheduling a workshop. We talked a little bit about this prior to the board meeting. We have a lot of dollars coming in and out of FDOT and with some grants that we've got. And so it's just the time for the board to get together, what grants we've submitted, conversations with TPO, conversations with FDOT, so that we're not overlapping any efforts and we can make sure that we're drawing from the right pot. So I'll get with Maria, but we want to do that sooner rather than later. And it shouldn't take more than an hour to get everybody together. And other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I look forward to that workshop because there are some projects that are out there existing with some existing funding, and now we've got new funding coming in, so I think that'll be time well spent for us to just map out where we go beyond that.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. On the Clay Day, is that the 15th, 16th, is that a Friday, Saturday, or what?
No, it's the
haven't-
16th and
the midweek.
17th of February. I think it's a Wednesday, Thursday.
Usually Wednesday, Thursday.
So the reception, yes, the reception is going to be held, and it's the fire.
Yeah, the Florida Professional Firefighters.
Yes, the reception will be held there on the 16th, and then Clay Day will be held at the Capitol Courtyard on the 17th. So Maria's got the link, and then I'll be sending that out to my council if you'll get with us, and then I'll coordinate with Maria on how we want to reserve the block of rooms and who's all gonna be attending.
Okay.
Well, they limited that, I think when the rule days, when they were initially talking about rule days, that there was limitations in the courtyard display area and.
Rural Days has turned into a different being altogether.
Yeah.
That's not the case with Clay Day. Yes, and so the airport will be in conjunction with the city. We've already taken care of that as every year, but Rural Day has turned into something.
And I'll
completely
get with
different.
Patricia Evans and Pam Whittle about rural days, because I recall last year we fell under Bradford County, and Bradford County had a lot of different entities that came to support them. If I remember right, when we started hearing about rural days, they were only allowing like 2 organizations under each county to attend, because now there's like 30-some counties under rural days.
All of the rural counties, yeah, that's what
Half the
happened. Yeah, it changed dramatically, so.
I can't imagine what that courtyard's gonna look like, but that may be something that the board, maybe we just do Clay Day, or,
Which one has the biggest, benefit, to the airport? I mean, where should we dedicate our resources, our time, treasure, and resources?
if we have to choose, I kind of feel like
Right.
we should fall under the city, just because,
I feel
I agree.
we have
Play Day.
FaceTime in front of, the same FaceTime, that you'd be talking to the same people, but Clay Day is a little bit more intimate than what Rural Day is turning out to be.
You get lost in the shuffle at Rural Day.
I've been to Rural Day in
the very
2019.
first one, the first one you were there.
I've been to 2,
Okay, the
correct.
very first one was excellent. It was wonderful. It felt very neighborhood-like. It was, you really knew, kind of like what we did for the first one of Clay. But now if you've got every rural county,
It's a lot of competition.
Well, initially, I think Representative Payne started that with mainly his area and his district, those counties involved in his area, and maybe some outlying. So that's why it was limited in size. But then I think North Florida Economic Development got involved a little more, and they wanted to broaden that. So that's why it's grown to include 40-plus counties.
They found as well that all of Florida is now doing a day. There's a day somewhere, and so they had to start consolidating, and so Rural Day kind of took over that umbrella to where Clay County our own county, our own day. So that's just one of the.
The other thing that Clay Day has going for it is Joe Mobley. He's a lobbyist, and he's got relationships with all those lawmakers, and he goes out and he pulls them in and to speak to the Clay Day participants all day during the day. And you just don't get that at Rural Day.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn, for all that you do as a liaison between the board and city council, and getting us ready for this Clay Day, because I believe that is beneficial to us with all of the projects that we get funding from DOT. So time well spent. All right, I believe that completes our agenda for this evening. We'll consider ourselves adjourned at 7:39. Thank you.